Imagine starving to death because you are absolutely terrified of the food sitting right in front of you.
Yeah, that's a really intense image.
Right. Like you know you need it to survive. Your stomach is literally aching for it. But the sheer terror of taking a bite just overpowers every survival instinct you have.
It's completely paralyzing.
Exactly. Well, today we are doing a deep dive into a psychological condition that does exactly that, but with human connection.
Right.
We're going to unpack a deeply misunderstood reality called Avoidant Personality Disorder, or AvPD for short.
Which is so often completely misinterpreted by the people around them.
Oh, totally. We'll explore how it completely hijacks a person's life, the agonizing internal paradox it creates, and how modern telehealth practices are stepping in. Specifically, we're looking at an overview from a practice called Coping and Healing Counseling in Georgia, and how their model is structurally designed to bypass the psychological roadblocks of this condition.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this right now and thinking about, I don't know, a coworker who turns down every happy hour.
Or a family member who always seems to just vanish during holidays.
Exactly. You might want to pay really close attention today, because it is incredibly common to casually mislabel someone in our lives.
Oh, for sure. We just call them a loner.
Right, we look at them and just write them off as a loner or someone who just prefers their own company. But understanding the mechanisms behind AvPD might force you to completely rethink what is actually happening beneath the surface of that behavior.
Well, let's start by defining the boundaries here, because I think a lot of people hear about a fear of social situations and they immediately jump to assumptions.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I'm actually struggling a bit with the distinction myself. If someone is just terrified of going to a party, isn't that just like extreme introversion or maybe social anxiety?
Yeah, it's a very common point of confusion.
Like, why give it an entirely different label like avoidant personality disorder?
Well, the distinction is crucial because the underlying mechanism is completely different. I mean, introversion is really just a battery-draining issue.
They just need to recharge.
Right. An introvert enjoys social interaction, but needs time alone to recharge their batteries. Social anxiety, on the other hand, is often tied to specific performance fears.
Like giving a speech or something.
Giving a speech, meeting new people, things like that. But the person usually knows, logically, that their fear is somewhat irrational. Avoidant personality disorder goes much, much deeper than that.
How so?
It is characterized by a pervasive, all-encompassing dread of being judged, criticized, or rejected. And the reason it's classified as a personality disorder is because it's a core identity issue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the person fundamentally believes they are inadequate, unappealing, and just totally socially inept.
So it's not just, I'm nervous about this specific interaction. It's a deeply ingrained belief that, I am flawed and therefore rejection is an absolute guarantee.
Precisely. The rejection isn't a possibility to them, it's a certainty.
It makes me think of an analogy. It's like being a comedian walking out on stage. But instead of an audience waiting to laugh and have a good time, your brain is entirely convinced the audience consists of 100 hostile critics.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like they are all waiting with notepads to write down every single flaw you have. The mental math just tells you it is fundamentally safer to never get on that stage at all.
That captures the hypervigilance perfectly. To the person with AvPD, visibility equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals guaranteed pain.
Man, that sounds exhausting.
It is. Try to imagine the sheer amount of energy that requires. Living with the constant, heavy belief that you are fundamentally flawed it's just draining.
You'd be on edge all the time.
Exactly. You are in a constant state of threat assessment. You're analyzing every tiny change in someone's tone of voice, every unreturned text message.
Just scanning for the rejection you believe you deserve.
Right. And that exhaustion drains the color out of every interaction, which is why this condition profoundly impacts the daily lives of around 2% of adults.
2%. Wait, really? That's wild to think about.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. In a crowded grocery store, you are very likely walking past someone battling this exhausting mental calculus every single day.
Without a doubt.
And I guess this brings us to the behavioral fallout, which is honestly where this gets incredibly heartbreaking. Because this fear of the critics is so overpowering, people with AvPD will actively sabotage their own lives to stay off the stage.
They absolutely will.
The source material mentions they will turn down promotions at work, they will skip important family gatherings, they will pull away from people they actually love. But wait, let me push back on this a bit.
Sure.
If they are turning down a promotion or pulling away from a relationship, doesn't that suggest they are at least finding some sort of relief or comfort in being alone? Like maybe they just want the peace and quiet.
You've just hit on the absolute most tragic paradox of the disorder.
Okay, lay it on me.
From the outside, that avoidance looks exactly like apathy. It looks like they just want peace and quiet, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But internally, they do not want to be alone.
They don't.
Not at all. They actually ache for connection. They have ambition. They have love to give. They desperately want to be part of the community.
Oh, wow.
But the paralyzing fear of judgment acts as an impenetrable wall between what they want and what they feel safe doing.
So they are, going back to the analogy, they are starving but terrified to eat.
Precisely. And when you think about what happens to a human being caught in that crossfire for years on end,
It's got to be devastating.
the downstream effects are devastating. You are literally watching your own life pass you by. You see your peers getting promoted, forming relationships, building lives.
And you want all of that.
You want to participate so badly, but you feel entirely locked out by your own mind. When you spend years aching for connection but forcing yourself into isolation, it makes complete sense that severe depression is usually the next domino to fall.
Yeah. The depression is like a secondary wound. It's the logical fallout of that intense internal conflict. It's just a heavy reality. But thankfully, we aren't just identifying a problem today.
No, there was a lot of hope here.
Right. We are looking at the mechanics of the solution. Because AvPD is treatable, we aren't talking about a life sentence of isolation here.
Definitely not.
But obviously, step one is recognizing you actually have it, which requires a proper diagnosis from a licensed clinician. Like, you can't just diagnose yourself based on a TikTok video or, some internet quiz.
Please don't do that. It requires a professional to untangle it from those other conditions we mentioned earlier.
Like generalized anxiety or just regular depression.
Exactly, because the treatments for those can differ. Once that ADPD diagnosis is clear, the clinical approach relies heavily on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Okay, I want to really dig into the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
Because CBT gets thrown around a lot as, like, a buzzword.
It really does.
What does it actually mean to be detective in your own mind when your brain is literally hardwired for fear? How does a patient actively interrogate that underlying "I'm not good enough" assumption when it feels as real to them as gravity?
It is a very meticulous, step-by-step investigative process. Let's say the patient is terrified to send a text message to an acquaintance because they are convinced the person will find them annoying.
Right. The 100 hostile critics in their head.
Exactly. The cognitive work involves the therapist helping the patient literally examine the evidence.
Okay.
The therapist will ask, where is the proof that this specific person finds you annoying? Have they ever actually said that to you? Are we mind reading right now?
So calling out the mental leaps.
Yes. And asking, what is a more balanced alternative thought? It forces the brain to slow down and recognize that a feeling of fear is not the same thing as a factual reality.
So you are basically training the brain to cross-examine its own worst assumptions. You are demanding proof from that inner critic.
Exactly. You are taking the microphone away from the 100 hostile critics in the audience.
I love that.
And once you start loosening the grip of those cognitive distortions, you bring in the second prong of the treatment, which is exposure.
Okay, exposure therapy.
But the critical qualifier here is gentle, gradual exposure to help rebuild confidence in real relationships.
Let me stop you right there. Because the word exposure usually makes people think of, like, throwing someone who is terrified of heights out of an airplane.
Right, flooding.
Yeah. And if we are dealing with someone who has a core identity, the fear of judgment, throwing them into the deep end of a networking event sounds like a recipe for massive trauma.
It would be, which is exactly why the gradual aspect is absolutely non-negotiable. It is a careful, safe rebuilding of relationship skills.
So what does that look like in practice?
It's about micro steps. Exposure might start with simply maintaining eye contact during a 2-minute conversation with a barista.
Oh, wow. Just that small.
Just that small. Next week, it might be sending one low-stakes email to a coworker. It's about slowly accumulating undeniable evidence that interactions can be safe.
That rejection is not a lethal event.
Right. And proving to the patient that they are actually capable of handling vulnerability.
It's basically building muscle memory for safety.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
And this brings us to a massive structural problem with traditional therapy that, honestly, I hadn't even considered until reading about coping and healing counseling's specific delivery method.
It's this huge barrier.
Right. If the core trigger of this condition is an overwhelming fear of public judgment and criticism, then forcing a patient to commute, walk into a clinic, interact with a receptionist, and sit in a crowded public waiting room just to get help is a massive design flaw.
The environmental context of therapy is everything for these patients.
I mean, the waiting room alone is a gauntlet. You are sitting there terrified, wondering if the other people in the room are judging you.
Wondering if the receptionist thinks you're weird.
Yes. It's an almost insurmountable barrier before the therapy even begins. That's why the fact that coping and healing counseling operates as a 100% telehealth practice across all 159 counties in Georgia fundamentally changes the game.
It really does.
By offering secure video sessions, they meet the patient, as the text says, from wherever you feel safest.
You are lowering the barrier to entry for someone who finds entry nearly impossible.
Exactly.
Telehealth is not just a convenience in the context of avoidant personality disorder. It is an actual clinical tool. It bypasses the hypervigilance triggers of a physical clinic.
Because they don't have to face the gauntlet.
Right. The patient can start this incredibly intimidating vulnerability work from the safety of their own living room or even their bedroom.
It's brilliant. But let's unpack the actual team behind the screen at Coping and Healing Counseling, because they aren't just like a generic tech platform matching you with random people.
No, they are highly specialized.
Right. They have a diverse team of over 15 licensed therapists, and the clinical data lists them as LCSWs, LPCs, and LMFTs.
Ah, the alphabet soup.
Yeah, the alphabet soup. For the listener who might not speak that language, can we break down functionally what those roles mean and why having that variety actually matters?
Of course. That alphabet soup represents licensed clinical social workers, licensed professional counselors, and licensed marriage and family therapists.
Okay, got it.
Functionally, this means they have a deep bench of specialists, equipped for whatever specific context the patient brings to the table. Avoidant personality disorder doesn't just happen in a vacuum.
Right.
The feeling of being not good enough can be deeply tied to family dynamics, which an LMFT specializes in. It can be tied to systemic issues or a childhood environment, which clinical social worker is highly trained to navigate.
And the cultural competence piece is huge here, too.
Absolutely vital.
Like, if your feelings of inadequacy are tied to the specific expectations of your cultural background, you need a clinician who actually understands that context.
Rather than someone who might accidentally dismiss it or misunderstand it.
Exactly.
Cultural competence is a vital pillar of effective therapy. The nuance of CBT demands a clinician who understands the patient's full background. And this diverse team allows them to offer individual, couples, family, and teen therapy for ages 13 and up, along with life coaching.
That covers a lot of ground.
It does. And when you look at their specialties, anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD, grief, relationships, and stress, you realize they are equipped to handle the entire web of issues that surround AvPD.
It all interlocks. I mean, we talked about how the depression co-occurs because of the isolation.
Yes.
The relationship struggles happen because they pull away from loved ones. There might be underlying trauma that installed that core belief of inadequacy in the first place.
Exactly.
This practice is structurally built to address the entire ecosystem of the disorder, not just the isolated symptoms.
And having the right treatment mechanics like CBT and gentle exposure and delivering it in a psychologically safe format like telehealth is incredible. But there is one final incredibly stubborn barrier that dictates the broader picture of healthcare.
The elephant in the room.
Right. A solution is only as good as its accessibility.
It's a financial wall.
If the patient cannot afford the session, it does not matter how perfectly tailored the therapy is or how safe their living room feels.
This is where I think the coping and healing counseling model is doing something genuinely vital, and frankly, it's a huge relief to see.
It really is.
They take various insurances to make this accessible across Georgia. For Medicaid patients, there is a $0 copay. $0.
That is massive.
It's unheard of sometimes. And they accept most major insurances like Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana, bringing the cost of sessions down to between $10 and $40.
You have to think about that financial structure not just as a billing detail, but as a mechanism that prevents self-sabotage.
Oh, man, yes. That is such a good point. When a patient's brain is actively looking for an excuse to back out of therapy due to fear.
And it will look for an excuse. You're disarming the self-sabotage.
Right. The patient doesn't have to stack financial terror on top of psychological terror. They can actually just focus on doing the heavy lifting of the healing.
It creates a seamless pathway to care. By utilizing telehealth to bypass the physical anxiety of the clinic and ensuring broad insurance coverage to bypass the financial anxiety, the practical hurdles are virtually eliminated.
Which is the whole goal.
Right. This allows the licensed clinician to focus entirely on guiding the patient out of that heartbreaking isolation and into a life of genuine connection.
Let's zoom out a bit and look at the whole picture we've uncovered today.
Let's do it.
We started by dismantling the idea that AVPD is just extreme shyness or introversion.
There's a whole other ballgame.
We explored the devastating mechanics of a disorder where someone desperately aches for connection, yet is so paralyzed by the belief that they are fundamentally flawed that they turn away from the very life they want to live.
The starving while terrified of food analogy.
Exactly. We saw how severe depression inevitably follows that kind of starvation, but we also saw the roadmap out.
The hope.
Right, challenging those cognitive distortions through CBT, slowly rebuilding trust through gentle exposure, and utilizing highly accessible, culturally competent telehealth to make that journey possible from the safety of home.
It's a testament to how far therapeutic frameworks have come, really.
Yeah.
We have the tools to rewire these deeply entrenched fears, provided we can get those tools into the hands of the people who need them most.
And for you, the listener, you now have a lens to understand human behavior that goes way beyond the surface level.
So true.
The next time you see someone consistently pull away, turn down an opportunity, or vanish from social circles, you might pause before just writing them off as a loner. You now know they might be fighting a quiet, exhausting battle against their own internal critics, aching for the very connection they are avoiding.
I'd like to leave you with something to consider about your own internal landscape, actually.
Oh, I like this.
We spent this time examining how a single, unexamined core belief, the belief of being fundamentally inadequate, can dictate a person's entire life path, forcing them to turn down love, success, and community.
Yeah.
While avoidant personality disorder is a specific clinical condition, it highlights a universal human vulnerability. It raises a fascinating question for all of us. What quiet, unquestioned beliefs are secretly running the show in your own daily decisions? And what might you finally achieve if you dared to put them on trial?